Welcome back to Kenton and Habiba. Today we're going to be making a homemade peach cobbler. You're going to need a pie dish of choice. It doesn't have to be round since this is a cobbler. It could be any shape. This one happens to have the recipe in the dish. Isn't that cute? You're also going to need 2 cans of peaches. These are the large cans. I'm choosing the one with juice and not concentrated syrup. I also use some cornstarch, some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and of course butter, because butter makes everything better, right? We're also going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, or a pinch of salt, and about a cup of granulated sugar. Also a fresh lemon and some measuring spoons. Okay, so my dough was made the night before. It's been refrigerated. It's nice and cold. It is actually gluten-free. Now you can make this recipe with regular wheat flour. If it doesn't bother you, go ahead. It's fine. I'm just choosing gluten-free because of my issues. Anyway, it's mostly rice flour, potato flour, and some tapioca flour. I'm also adding almond flour because I just like the texture. So it's always better if the dough has been refrigerated. It's easier to work with. And this is basically was flour, sugar, salt, and butter. Okay, let's open up our can of peaches. So I'm going to be using 2 cans of peaches. I'm draining them first. Again, this is in 100% juice, not the concentrated syrup. So I don't want the concentrated syrup. And even though it's juice, I'm draining it because it's too much liquid. So I'm going to saute the peaches on the stove with the sugar because I want the sugar melted completely. You don't have to do this. You could definitely just make the pie filling without cooking it, but I want to cook it first. I'm going to cook it for about 10 minutes. Again, I will use the juice for something else. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my lemon, take out the seeds, and use about a teaspoon of lemon juice. When you use fresh peaches, the lemon juice helps the peaches from going dark or going, gray. But here we're using canned peaches. I like the flavor. I'm also adding a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. I don't want to overpower the peaches because, they have a very nice, delicate flavor. I also added a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix this, continue to let it simmer again for about 10 to 15 minutes. It's all going to marinate with all that flavor. Now I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of butter. This is optional, maybe a little indulgent, but I've seen it done like this in the South. And I live in North Carolina, for those of you that don't know. Okay, so we got our peaches, our spice, our sugar, our butter, and now I'm adding corn flour. Or cornstarch, cornstarch. But let me tell you something. I should have mixed the cornstarch with a little bit of water before adding it, because that would prevent lumps. So if you don't want lumps, go ahead and add your cornstarch to some water before adding it to the peaches. And the cornstarch will thicken it. So just a few tablespoons, although here you see I used quite a bit of cornstarch, maybe a little too much. So I'm adding a little bit of juice to thin it out a little bit, and that should do the job, and you have to make sure you mix it really well. Of course, you don't want it watery, but you don't want it too hard. Okay, so now I'm adding butter to my pie dish, a lot of butter because I don't want the crust to stick to the bowl or to the dish. So here this is cornstarch, again, because I'm not using wheat flour. And I'm just going to roll out my dough. Now, again, because this is not wheat flour, it doesn't act the same way wheat flour dough does. It doesn't have the same elasticity. It does crumble a little bit more easier, and it's a little bit harder to work with, but we're going to do our best. So I'm just rolling it out, and then I'm going to use this on top of my cobbler. Now, you know what's interesting? What's the difference between a cobbler and a pie? I had to look it up. because I kept thinking, isn't it the same ingredients? Isn't it the same thing? Cobbler, pie? What do you think? Well, I'll tell you. It turns out a cobbler doesn't have a bottom. So what I'm making is a cobbler because there's no bottom. So most cobblers are made with fruit. Whereas when you say pie, a pie can easily be made with meat or fruit. And usually a pie has a crust on the bottom and also a crust on the top. And most pies are round, whereas cobblers could be rectangular if you wanted. And hence the term cobble, because it reminds people of, the old cobblestone roads. So the top is not always very even. It doesn't have to be very neat. And you will see, my pie or cobbler is not very neat. Covering the pie dish was a little bit tricky, and I was afraid to tear the dough because again it rips apart very easily. So I didn't want to drag it like I would with wheat dough. Anyway, we're going to make it work. It's not going to be the prettiest pie, but we're going to make it work, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. And besides, it's just Kenton and I. Well, the kids are here, but as soon as I say something is gluten-free, they don't seem to be interested, which is fine. So we're just putting a few slits on the top to vent it. And this trick I've seen where you cover the edges with foil so that you don't burn the pie crust, because I love the pie crust, don't you? So in the oven it goes for about an hour at 350 degrees. So I'm outside and the place is covered with pollen. If you're in North Carolina, you know the place looks like it's snowing with yellow pollen. So I'm just going to spray down the plants and spray down a few of the surfaces because I want us to come outside and eat. Just, a nice, cute little break. Kenton's been working really hard and going to school, so it's just a nice little break. I'm sure the plants appreciate the little shower because here in North Carolina, it kind of went from winter and jumps all the way to summer. So of recent, we've had temperatures up to 85 degrees, no kidding. Anyway, I just like when the plants look nice and green and fresh. All right, our pie is done. And I told you she wasn't the prettiest pie, but she is absolutely delicious. Just look at that crust. Okay, so it turns out it got late. We had dinner, but I just wanted you to see what outside looks like at night. I have cleaned up recently and it's looking really pretty, but we're gonna have pie tomorrow. Okay, it's pie day. Let's get our whipping cream. This is the heavy whipping cream. And I put the bowl in the freezer so it can stay super cold when I pour the whipping cream in there. So I'm using the whisk attachment. I couldn't find the second whisk attachment, but that's okay. One will work. Look how beautiful that is, right? So yummy. Now to give it a little bit of flavor, I like to add just a little bit of confectioner's sugar. So this is not going to make it super sweet because as you know, confectioner's sugar is not as sweet as granulated sugar. I'm also adding a few drops of vanilla and that's it. So the heavy whipping cream, a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of confectioner's sugar to your taste. And I'm telling you, this tastes like ice cream. When it's done, it tastes just like ice cream I grew up having in the park in London. Not American ice cream, but light, fluffy English ice cream. That's what it reminds me of. Okay, I'm ready to put on the kettle and I am ready to go outside. The garden is happy. Well, actually, it's a deck. Let's put on the table mats. And I have these pretty plates. These are smaller than dinner plates, but larger than saucers that I thrifted. Can you believe? Thrifted. So they cost me mostly under $2 per plate. And these are real china. You just have to have a good eye to pick out either French china or English china. So I always look at the back and I always Google the actual pattern and designer. And these plates were actually worth $38 each. Yes. So even though it's mismatched, I don't mind because it just makes it a little bit more fun, more whimsical. And then I added these paper napkins, which are left over from Easter. I kind of flipped them on the other side to give them a more adult look. This is a very garden-themed cup and saucer, and these crystal glasses or crystal goblets I also thrifted. Look how beautiful they are. You just have to know how to, have a good eye and pick out what is real. The tea set was a gift from Kenton for my birthday last year. So I partially fill up the teapot and rinse it to warm the pot. These teas are so beautiful and unique and light and refreshing. I think this one was called Rising Spring, which I thought was appropriate. So the base, which is a warmer, came with the teapot. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, we're ready for our cobbler. Now remember, it doesn't have a base, so it can get a little bit messy, but that's okay. All that yumminess just for us. Now, even though the crust is not as neat as wheat dough, I really like how it turned out. My son Kareem did a really good job, and it was just the right amount of butter, the right amount of sweetness, just a touch of salt, and so delicious. Now here comes the heavenly whipped cream. And honestly, I love the fact that it's dense, but yet light and not sweet. So even the pie really wasn't very sweet. Okay, we're gonna garnish it with some fresh mint leaves. Voila! I'm a little bit more optimistic about the future, but I'm still not at a place where I think I'm comfortable having large social gatherings. So as much as I miss having friends and large parties, I think this reminds me that, not to lose that sense of special occasion, and you can still do it in the comfort of your own home, even if it's just 2 people. And to whoever is watching this, thank you. I hope you are inspired to do something nice for yourself. It doesn't have to be elaborate at all. And also, thank you so much for all the wonderful comments on the last video with my father. We really appreciate it. You guys are helping the channel grow. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like button. And again, I really, really appreciate all of you guys from wherever you're watching us from. I can't believe even Kenton really enjoyed the cobbler. He really did, and he said it almost reminded him of some Asian desserts because it was light and it wasn't too sweet. If you like it sweet, then add more granulated sugar. If you like it less sweet, add more brown sugar or less sugar as a whole. I will leave a link in the description box below for the teapot and all the different teas. They are so beautiful, so worth it, and this is not sponsored. Again, it was a gift from Kenton. Slowly but surely, we're inching our way to 30K. Can we do it? Can we do it, you guys? Can we do it? I hope so. And I'm sure with your help, we're going to do it. 30K, here we come. So I hope you enjoyed this cobbler, peach cobbler, and tea with me in the garden. And we will definitely see you soon with a lot more family videos, a lot more food videos, a lot more creativity. God bless you from wherever you're watching us from, and we will see you soon. Bye!